Can you say that again? What?
Take two.
Sorry.
Daniela, what have you made of the course here in Ibiza?
And the course is pretty straightforward. It's a bit hillier than I expected, but I mean it's not really hilly. It's out and back, flat, or a little bit with a bit of a gradient. So it'll be fast and definitely hard anyway because it's a really strong field.
I think it's very pretty when you're doing it steady. We probably don't see a lot of that, but people are watching. Hopefully a wetsuit swim. I think it's quite chilly out there, which is good for me. A hard bike, but with a bit of a climb, which is kind of hopefully will break things up a little bit, and I think the run's going to be fast.
So far, I've obviously looked out the window and seen the swim course. It looks super nice. The sea looks super clear. I think there's some fish in there, so it should be pretty nice. I mean, I'm used to doing open water swimming, so I'm quite nice and enjoying the sea. I've been out on the bike, not on the course. That was pretty hectic, but I think it's going to be a super fast bike course. It looks really straightforward, just out and back. So there's going to be some serious power laid down by the ladies, I think. And then the run I haven't actually looked at yet, but I think we're going to be like super spectator friendly because there seems to be tons of people out there on the beach having a great time. So hopefully they'll get behind us and be cheering us along.
How important is it for the PTO Tour to create these new races that take us to different continents? It's not all just in one place.
You know, triathlon is a global sport, and in order to put on a great show for everybody, we need all the top athletes to show up to our biggest events, and the PTO showcases the best that our sport has to offer, and I'm really excited for all of the continents around the world, maybe minus Antarctica one day, to get to see what we're able to do because this sport is truly remarkable.
It's really cool. As an athlete, I'm a bit of a homebody, so it takes me out of my comfort zone to leave the US and to, come to a different, totally different country to race. And just the spectator aspect of this course will be really cool because there's so much tourism from not just the race, but people that come here for vacation. So it'll be really exciting.
I think it's really exciting to have the first European tour. I think that it's great that we've kind of expanded from the US and Canada, and I'm waiting for one in Australia.
Daniela, how important is it for the sport to get the best athletes going head to head at these types of races?
Yeah, I think it makes it interesting for the fans to show, to watch the athletes race face to face. It brings out the best of the athletes, but also, of course, it makes it interesting to watch because you never know who's going to win.
To have the best in the world against each other, you come here and you realise, you think you do it all the time until you see this start list, and everyone's saying it's like one of the best fields ever assembled, and I think that's so important. Like as a sport, you need that, and it's going to lift everyone's game, and it's so exciting. I think it's great for the sport.
We don't see it enough in this sport, getting the top athletes to go head to head. So I think it's great what the PTO are doing, bringing us together on more occasions than just once a year. We should get multiple races where we all get to test ourselves against the best athletes. And I think as one of the top athletes, it's exactly what you need. You want to go and race the best, and then you can go away and know exactly what you need to work on to be better at the next race. And for fans, it makes it more exciting to see the best of the best going head to head more than once a year. So I think it's a great thing.
All right, this one's a bit cheeky, but here we go. Have you got an opinion on a podium?
Oh, a prediction?
Yeah.
My prediction for the podium, in no particular order, is Lucy, Daniela, and Ashleigh. I don't know, I don't want to say myself. I'm honestly, it's really hard to come to a race early May and race this caliber of field, and I tend to really build into the year and race really well in September or August time. Not that I'm not fit right now, but obviously, in order to stay healthy all year, you have to be careful and not be fit from May until September. So we'll see, but I think that anyone in the top 20 at this race could podium and could have some surprises too. Yeah. Lucy has to pick too.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I got away with it. I was like, yes. You don't have to pick me. Don't pick me.
I'm going to back myself for the win. I think I'm going to just give myself a bit of confidence. But as Paula said, it's super early in the season. But and then I'm going to go Annie Haug for second and Tamara Jewett for third.
In winning both PTO Tour Opens in 2022, Ashleigh has already become called the Queen of the 100 kilometres. Yet, Daniela, you were faster at last year's Collins Cup. So who really is more suited to the PTO distance, do you think?
Well, obviously she has 2 wins when it counted. So Ashleigh's definitely the one to look out for. I mean, it is a short distance. For me, it feels like, you know, it'd be close to an hour run, which, yeah, feels very short to me. And I still do love the distance, even though I actually think my body is more suited to the long distance. Mentally, I really enjoy that distance because you can go really hard. And yeah, I'll try to make life hard for Ash on Saturday.
I'm sure you will.
How does lining up against the GOAT affect your mentality going into the PTO European Open?
Yeah, well, I just have so much respect for Daniela and everything she's achieved. So, I don't know, it's hard for me to really feel like fired up or aggressive because I obviously just have so much respect for her. And whether I beat Daniela or she beats me, I feel like it's a privilege to be sitting next to her and to be able to come to an event like this where there's so many athletes who I've always looked up to. I can race them. I think that I shouldn't be scared about it. I should think about that and think that's a privilege. I've been in this sport for a really long time too, and I think that I'm really proud that, yeah, I'm still racing, and I think that I can still be really competitive, and I found a different part of the sport that I've, you know, fallen in love with now, and I think that, yeah, it's been pretty cool to be able to reconnect with different athletes and also, join them on the race course and bring out the best in each other.
Emma, you are coming off the back of being crowned the Duathlon World Champion just here in Ibiza a few days ago, and do you think that's going to play into your race both physically and mentally going into this weekend?
Yeah, I kind of, I spent the whole winter in Johannesburg doing so many run and bike races, and with the running, like I used to be a runner, I never thought I'd get back to my run shape, and I've actually gone beyond that this season. So for me, that was a massive breakthrough, but that's where my confidence is on the bike and run, and putting it all together in triathlon I know is a totally different game. So yeah, I'm here to try and have the best swim that I can have, and then yeah, I know I'll be chasing all day. It's that kind of field, but it will be fun, and yeah, taking that confidence in there.
So both of you have come from, as you said, a running background. You both moved across into triathlon. What is it about this sport that drives you to reach your athletic potential?
I think it's the challenge. As a runner, it was very much day in, day out. It was pretty the same. It was like you go onto a start list and you know everyone's times and their rankings, and I feel like run races more followed to people's times. Whereas triathlon, anything can happen. And there's so many, and I love that, like I'm challenged every day, mainly by the swim, but it's tough. Training for triathlon is just so tough. There's more training, it's a lifestyle thing, but ultimately I started out wanting to be an all-rounded athlete, and was hoping that I could get my fastest run times off being a triathlete, and it took so many years, but I think it does in the end make you a stronger athlete.
I was drawn to triathlon because I was curious to find out what was possible. I felt like physiologically I was made to do triathlon, and I've really enjoyed the process of exploring that potential across 3 different sports. There's always something to work on. It's incredibly dynamic racing, and the level right now in our sport is so high, and so I enjoy being part of that movement. I think that my result in Canada was quite shocking, and maybe now people think that I'm an Ironman specialist, but the reality is that I've only done 2 full distance races, and I only started racing non-draft really seriously in 2019 with a big maternity break in there. So I still feel kind of like a beginner, and any chance I get to race the top women, I will take it regardless of how prepared I am or where I am in my season. I love this environment. I feel like it brings out the best in me, and I'm excited to see how Saturday goes.
Ashleigh, what have you made of the Collin Chartier story over the past couple of weeks?
Oh yeah, that was shocking. When we learnt of that news, like just on social media, I told Josh and his face went white. He lost like all colour, and I guess shock was definitely the first, response from both of us. Yeah, I feel like emotional talking about it actually, because in some way I tried to explain to Josh how I was feeling about it, and it was really difficult because it just made me feel like isolated in a sense, because I thought I've always talked about community in triathlon and camaraderie and having a bond with your fellow athletes. And my first reaction was, well, actually not my first reaction, but after a few days I just thought I could be no different to the person that I shared the US PTO Open Dallas title with. And yeah, we did it. Well, I don't know, what he was doing at that time, but I just thought I couldn't be so different to that. And yeah, definitely don't think that is any type of behaviour that should be accepted in any sport, and it's quite shocking to see it in triathlon.
It's hard to find positives in a disappointing action like this. I mean, yeah, I feel very sorry for all young athletes, because for me, I always thought like it's very important to have good role models, and I think it's a behavior that doesn't really reflect the athletes who are in the sport. And to have excuses like this, I mean, it's disappointing, I think. And the only positive we can take out of it is that he got caught, I guess. Yeah, I mean, pushing for more controls, in the training for all athletes. I think that's the only thing we can try to push now, and I think it's important because there might not be all countries in the same pools, and therefore having, you don't want to have a misbelief in who might else do it, and that's just very, very demotivating and also dangerous, because for me, like as a kid, I always believed you can become the best with being clean, and I think it's so important for the young athletes to believe that, because otherwise the sport is ruined.
I don't know if I'm naive, but I've always thought that it's a super clean sport. I've never suspected anyone to be doping or taking anything that they shouldn't be. So I think it's super eye-opening. It kind of does put question marks over performances, and I guess you look back now and it almost seems super obvious that he was doing something. But I think it just highlights the need for more out-of-competition testing. There's definitely not enough going on in the sport, and whether that brings more people out that are doping, or whether we can just be more confident that everyone we're racing is clean, then it can only be a good thing.
The good thing about it is that he was caught, so there is some positivity to that, knowing the system somewhat works. And I agree with Lucy, more out of competition testing is definitely needed, but it's just brought the discussion forward, which I think is also a positive thing. And I'm like Lucy, was really naive and thought that everyone's clean, and I just have the faith that all the performances that we see that are spectacular are because people train hard and work hard and they're talented. So to see that happen, I don't like it to shed doubt on these performances, but just to have the conversation brought forward and have everyone in the triathlon world talking about it is the first step to change, I think.
Obviously, it's a huge negative for the sport, but then I think you've got to look at the positives. And for me, the positives are the amount that people have been speaking about it, and it's actually raised the awareness. And I think words are one thing. If we can actually have actions from that, then it will actually progress the sport forward. And I don't think we can just look to the organisations. Yeah, we all want to be tested out of competition a lot more, but I think as practical, like what the PTO are trying to do, bring the athletes together. And if we can all come together and make a decision of something we can do, like say what TUEs we are all on, that's one action that we can all do, coming together, announce it, and just pull together and be more transparent with people, so that actually the sport, it shows that it's not in a terrible place, and we take something positive from this.
Yeah, obviously it's incredibly disappointing, but the reality is that this is part of professional sport. As more money gets invested in the sport, people have more incentives to cheat, and that's what we're seeing play out here. The positive from my perspective is that some level of the system is working right. Like an athlete who was cheating was caught, and that was in an out of competition test, and so I think many of us are in agreement that we need more of that, and we need our organizations to figure out how to make that a more frequent reality. I don't think that it should necessarily fall on the athletes to be like planning that or facilitating that, but I do believe that we should have a huge investment in out of competition testing, and as of now, it's not all there.
Daniela, in the Countdown to Ibiza show, you talked about how you retain your killer instinct and that you don't race for fun. Can you tell me a little bit more about where that comes from?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I race for wine or something else, you know. I mean, I'm not saying I don't have fun in the race, but to me, like, of course, if I'm in the race, I'm put on my race mode, and then it's yeah, I'm not the one who can be smiling in a race. I need to have my focus face on, and that's kind of the angry bird face, I guess. And yeah, it doesn't mean I don't love doing it, but it's just that kind of state of mind I need to be in, and that helps me to really keep that focus in the race. I admire the ones who can go out there and smile all on the race course, but I can't.
Okay, Lucy, as the sport's premier swimmer, you're often out of sight early on in the race. How much of a lift does that give you in the race to know that you're the one being chased and setting the pace?
There's definitely pros and cons to being out front on the swim. I think I have an internal pressure to be leading the swim. It's obviously my background as an elite level swimmer, but sometimes it actually is a benefit for me to have some people with me. I think there's some strong riders that are sometimes just a little bit off of me and can help the other riders bridge up to me. So it would be useful to have a couple of other girls with me. I think the biggest lift I actually get is if I'm out on the bike and gaining time, then I get a bigger boost. I think if I'm out on the bike and it's getting smaller, then I'm under pressure and it's a bit more difficult. So it can be hard to stay in a positive headspace when you are leading and almost expected to be leading at the early part of the race. So it's definitely something I've had to deal with over the years.
Emma, with you and Chelsea, plus Ashleigh Gentle, Annie Haug, Tamara Dewitt, and more, it's easy to see this coming down to a bit of a foot race. How will you make sure that you're right up there?
Yeah, I think it's going to be hard. Like, I'll do everything I can, but I think I've got to have that mindset that it's not necessarily going to happen. Like, I've got to be prepared. Like, if it does, like, amazing. But if it doesn't happen, I've got to be prepared to fight hard all day. And I'd love to see it. Like, I feel like watching the men's races, I've seen so many where they come off the bike together and they have that real, like, head-to-head battle. And I want to see some more of that in the women's race where you're, like, shoulder to shoulder. And, yeah, I think it would be exciting, no matter where you are in the race, to be shoulder to shoulder having a foot race if it, yeah, comes down to the nails.
And Paula, even though you have said that you know you're trying to build through the season and be sensible about your attack at racing, you have podiumed in a PTO Tour race already, and what would it mean to you if you could replicate that or even go a step better onto the podium?
Yeah, I've never won one of these. Well, I guess Daytona a while ago, but it would mean a ton. It would shock me to win, but it always does whenever I win a race. I'm always kind of surprised. Just the caliber of field at not just this race, but every PTO event, every World Championship is crazy, and I mean, my confidence is not quite at the spot where I expect myself to win, so it's cool to just, like, be in the race. And, like, when I was racing Lucy at 70.3 Worlds running with Flora, that was one of the coolest experiences of my career, regardless of how the outcome was. So I just think that the opportunity to line up on Sunday or on Saturday and then again throughout the season with the same athletes is really cool.
Is that your message?
Yeah, and my phone's out there, so I can't.
I can't do anything about it.
Turn off the Bluetooth.